You are listening to These Walls Can Talk, a Hope Outdoor Gallery podcast.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of These Walls Can Talk. I am Chris Skull, here with my co-host and sister, Andy Skull, talking about all things with the Hope Outdoor Gallery and some of the badasses that are here in Austin, Texas, doing creative shit. Our guests today include my homie, Jason Eatherly, one of the coolest artists I've ever met. You've seen his work all over the place. He touches a lot of mediums, and we're going to touch on all that, as well as my homie, Luis Angulo, but your artist's name is I fuck this up every time.
I literally just told you how to pronounce it.
I know, that's why this is me being me, is ULOANG. Please help me with this.
ULOANG.
See? ULOANG. And obviously I've known you and your work for so long, and yet my pronunciation is terrible. So, but we're going to learn some more today. And you are
but I love the way Luis, tell him how to say it again.
Ooh.
ULOANG.
ULOANG.
In all fairness, it's a made-up word, so...
What do you mean?
So, it's based on my last name, Angulo. I just switched the syllables and made up the word ULOANG. So I also made up the pronunciation.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not your fault that you don't know how to pronounce it. It's not a real word.
No, but it's the learning of it too. So, but it's like, hey girl, ULOANG. So I love that. And you're also the founder of Something Cool Studios.
That's right.
So congrats on all the momentum that's been going on with everything. So let's get into it, y'all. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
How's
likewise.
everybody?
Awesome.
Good.
Super good.
Dude, well, we got to start with how Jason got here. I mean, dude.
Oh, he pedaled up?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like it's been very cool to watch a lot of our whole artist community find out all the different ways that they share their talent. Luis, there's so much to share with you too, just in the past couple years now, just seeing your art's so big and in so many different ways. But yeah, Jay, just
We got our hands in different things right now, I guess. And
Too many pots.
stirring it up, but you can't go wrong. You know, the chaos is kind of what we feed off. It's like, I think the long term is just how we deal with some of these things and how the pressure might build up, but then we release it. Mm-hmm. And the best, I think arts for me has always been the best way to release that.
Yeah, I feel like we're similar. We just bounce around mediums and techniques, and I say that I have artistic ADD because I just can't just focus on one thing. I have to just have many different types of projects going on at the same time. That's just how my brain works, I guess. It keeps me entertained and keeps it fun.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good talent to have. Does that mean you jump around, you have multiple projects going on at the same time, and you go back and forth to them?
That, but also just as far as mediums, I'm primarily a muralist, but I also like to dabble in sculpture and virtual reality and animation. And it's kind of, sometimes I feel like maybe it kind of hinders my trajectory a little bit because everything just kind of progresses slower. But I feel like everything's going to tie in together somehow, hopefully, and then all makes sense.
But you continue to master more mediums, but yet an audience gets to appreciate and find you in all these ways too. And same thing with you,
yeah,
Jason.
It doesn't close doors for anything.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think even as we were on the way up talking, you rolled up on badass one of one a handmade bike, which you'll see in a sec. But you also the tattoo art, ink world, murals, paint, spray, all that shit.
Yeah.
So badass. That's why I wanted both of y'all on together, because multifaceted. You even both rolled up on different things. Luis rolled up on a one wheel,
just so cool.
Rolling in, and then
the bike's way cooler though.
Man, yeah. During any festival, you'll see him, or when he's working with his company and he's got some errands to run, you'll just see him zip around on that thing, and it's better than waiting at a light forever and dealing with an accident. You can just zip around.
I hardly walk anymore.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's
it's a good city to do it in.
Exactly. But yeah, you two are the other unifying thing of the both of you, even though styles all different and varied. At the original Hope Park, the hardest place to paint at the park are the two long elevator shafts. And you two are the artists that I think of the most that A, attempted, and B, kind of started to master to have a piece that's large and reachable. So I'm so fascinated on how you both achieved what you did there.
Yeah, for sure. That was a big part that Chris brought up. You know, we've had every show 2 different guests, and you know, it's kind of like a nice mashup. Either sometimes it's a couple, and then sometimes it's friends of ours that never have done stuff together. But when Chris was talking about the 2 of you, he's like, yeah, but Andy, they're both the guys that like tackled the elevator shafts and were able to do things with them. I was like, actually, that's a really great point. And you both also like come to mind for me as artists that are so multifaceted, have really jumped and had the courage and the talent to present yourself in all these other different ways that some people might just know you for one of these just one ways. And that's so rare and different. So I was like, oh, I love it. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. It's definitely an honor sitting next to Jason. I'm a big fan of his work. Have been for a long time.
Yeah, thanks, man. Likewise. I mean, as far as someone in the city that I was recognizing when the tornado was going is people that stayed diverse, and you really didn't for me to not expect something from an artist is really cool. And you always had that as like, oh, who painted this large thing? And then like I'd look in the corner and your name would be chilling. So it's like, it's pretty cool, big time.
Yeah, I feel like street art and graffiti, a lot of times the artists focus on one image or just a few images. And I'm not a graffiti artist. I'm part-time street artist, I guess you could say. But I've always felt like going in the opposite direction as everybody else was going. Because everybody else is doing one thing. Okay, that's the cool thing at that point. But what's next? What can we do next? So that's kind of what I've tried to focus on, at least.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think what I also enjoyed thinking about was, you know, Chris and I, we came here and both went to UT, went through the communication school. He went through RTF. I went through advertising, creative sequence 25 years ago. And, you know, right at a time of watching the city, you know, change and grow. And then I've watched both of you kind of come in around the same time as well. And all of the different things that you guys have been building and growing and having your careers and, you know, companies take off in different ways too. Even the recent mural festival that you and Something Cool Studios just launched, that was so great. And then Jason, you and Sarah have been like, oh gosh, on so many different adventures.
Yeah, she's with me for sure, and not a lot of women could handle like the chaos of another artist.
Oh my gosh.
And still like believe in it, right? Like to where we kind of come to a, you know, like, all right, this is what you're doing. And she's helped me tighten it, everything from people sending me hate to whatever. She's been able to tighten my mind up and keep it on track instead of like worrying about all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, no one's tried to fight me since high school. So it's like, and if someone's going to fight me nowadays, it's like, you know, I'd want it to be over something reasonable. Like instead of just some art that they don't know much about or the person or something like that. I think it's, you know, just got to do a lot of research within to judge a person, I guess.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I like hearing you bring that up. I feel like our creative art community in Austin and the growth of it, what I've mostly called it is this army of awesome. You know, just a real group of people that we've watched just become closer and closer friends and figure out different ways that we can support each other and then have fun together. So all these crazy stories that we have from these adventures that we've been doing that have all been in different places of the city over the past like decade. It's been really cool.
Yeah.
Way more about love and support.
Big time. That overdoes everything, and you take that back home, you know, it's working type deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could only get out of what you put in. And I'm starting to age enough to where I'm very thankful for the things that I've learned. I look back in high school and somehow I wanted to become an artist then, and like college and all these different things that I thought you had to play a role in, and just kept painting. And now I'm like, when I think about those high school days, I'm like, wow, I've learned a lot of those things that I've wanted to become and stuff. And now they're just in the tool bag, and now I can use them to create sculptures or do bigger things. So it's so cool.
And Jason, you're self-taught, or did you go to art school? Or?
I say like it's hard. It's a hard question because you take what you can from where you come from and stuff. And I was very fortunate in high school to have like, in one, I went to 2 different high schools because one was pretty bad, and my senior year I graduated at another high school down the road. But I had an airbrush teacher there, and let me do artist AP, so you could just turn in whatever you want as long as you take it serious and stuff. And he wouldn't give anybody an A because he didn't think it was worth it. Nothing's worth a perfect A. So it would be like, it was kind of a weird, I don't know if it's legal or not, but that's what he did. And like, he gave everyone a B, and I just kind of accepted that for that. It's like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, no matter what we're making, it's just from the heart, and can't really put it in a certain folder that, but fortunate to have those people to be like, okay, you're a teacher now, you're in your 40s, you're loving what you do. I could at least do a little bit of that or something. But I didn't have a lot of artist friends growing up. Like I had a lot of BMXers, different like blue collar workers and stuff, construction and all that. But when I moved here, it became very social. I met a lot of good people here that are doing the same stuff, right? So.
And that was about when you created the Queen, right?
I created the Queen in 2011, and I was living in Dallas. And when I created it, I was like also learning about how Shepard and Banksy was doing their thing publicly. It's like, I want to do it publicly. Tried it there, got into some trouble. Got raided by police early in the morning, and had to show my studio off to them and talked my way out of it, luckily. But I was like, I got to get out of here because like I'm the only one in the streets doing stuff, and there's galleries everywhere and people are artists, but no one's really like letting it be out there for free type thing. And just, in the midst of the chaos, you just wake up and see something. I think that's so cool. So I was like, I'm going to go to Austin. My buddy turned pro riding BMX here, and just kind of followed him. Worked out. He's like, you need to be here. There's painters everywhere. You'll just blend in, So in 2012, I moved here. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then, well, you also have an incredible wife that is super supportive. I think that's another cool thing about both of you. So yeah, when did you first get here? I know you have a really great background in the arts, but
Yeah, so Kristen and I met in art school, actually, at an art institute in Miami. That's where I grew up. I'm originally from Venezuela. And I went for a master's in fine arts after that in Connecticut. And she went with me. We were just dating at the time. And in Connecticut, we got engaged. And we bonded over art, but she went more to the musical side and theater. And I focused more on painting. So in grad school, everything was oil painting, basically. I would do very large scale canvases. And when that program was over, when I graduated, we were trying to figure out where to settle, and her family lived in Houston, and we wanted to just find a new place to move to, and we picked Austin, and that was back in 2007. And that's how we ended up in Austin. 2007, I didn't know anything about the art scene. I got a job with the mural company out of Houston. We did a lot of murals for very fancy houses, mansions, and a lot of faux finishing, which is not fun. But I learned the business side of murals and working with
Chris?
clients.
I was gonna say faux real. Go ahead.
Yeah,
It'll get worse.
I've heard them all.
Oh, you're gonna hear it more. Go ahead.
So but with that company, I learned how to bid on projects, how to manage artists on large scale murals, how to market myself. And eventually, I think it was 2013 or 14, I decided to just kind of go on my own. But yes, both Jason and I have very supportive wives, and it's key, I feel, because I think as artists, we can kind of be all over the place and maybe a little unstable and fall to temptations, I guess. There's a lot of drinking and drugs, so
much
yeah.
temptation.
So Kristen definitely helps me stay centered and focused, and she's the only person that I'll send a mural design to and ask her for her opinion. And I really value her eye because she has a very good eye. She can tell me with incredible precision what's missing, or when why this won't work. So she's just kind of like, she's yeah, my bedrock really.
I love that. Really love that.
Yeah, she's right up there. I mean, yeah, you go hand in hand teaching each other things, and then at the end, you guys are just pretty much the same. Like Sarah was my manager forever, and now it's like, you know, it's something that if I want to be this artist, like it's something that I need to hone in on and handle. You know, and she's now drifting off into another career path for herself, and I think it's incredible to be there for each other when those times are necessary.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh man, wow. Okay. So I totally agree. I mean, I think it's so great to bring that up, you know, that as any creative, whether you're an entrepreneur, however it is that, you know, you're creating, having someone that you trust, that you spend your time with, that you can bounce things off with, and whether it's a significant other or a business partner or a best friend or whatever it is, it makes a huge difference. I do think I get the Punisher a little bit, my brother, to be able to do some of that with.
Quite pungent. Quite pungent.
Is that what you call him, the Punisher?
Yeah.
You got a lot of names. None of them are good.
I like that. I'll remember that one now.
Well, given that, I mean, I would love to know sometime where you sent Kristen something and she was like, what is wrong with you? and maybe if one of those times happened at the park, I feel like there's definitely some crazy installations I've seen by both of you that if you had asked me, I would have been like, I don't know if that's a smart idea.
I definitely had a lot of crazy and maybe even dumb ideas that I executed at the park. But the park was great because it wasn't for a client or for anyone in particular, and it was just for yourself as an artist. So actually, the stuff I painted there, I didn't send to Kristen because if it was gonna suck, that was okay because it would probably get painted over anyways. But when I'm bidding on projects for clients, then that's when I send her something. And a lot of times when I send her something that's really bad, she's like, you already know my answer. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I know this design is not good.
You know, that's so true though. Like, I feel like with any creative, whether it's a chef or, you know, you're like, here, taste this, or you're a designer and you walk out and you're like, what do you think? It's still good to have someone else be like, that's awful. You're like, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew. I just want to test you. It was a test.
Unless it's a stroke of genius. You're like, wow.
Well, there's times where I know the idea is bad, but then I think maybe it's actually genius.
Yeah.
Because there's that out there, but
Yeah.
it's usually not the case.
Well, sometimes it's one or two tweaks,
Yeah.
and then it changes again. So
Yeah, I've had a lot of unfinished pieces lately sell unfinished, you know.
everyone,
Like all right, but I could put another day and it'll look even cooler. But like I love the pencil marks. Let me just come by and buy it. I'm like, all right.
I mean, I think that's what's kind of interesting about when other people see it. I think artists never feel like the work's done. A lot of times, like, or there's always one other
sure.
addition, or I could have put more time into this portion or something. But the art lover or the viewer, the person seeing it, a lot of times their opinion comes in and they love the way it is. Now with a collab or a commission, I mean, that's a whole other level. I would imagine sometimes it's very cool and sometimes it's like, okay, another cook in the kitchen that you don't want there.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to fake an ego too, or like just try to like be in control a little bit more when it becomes to your company and someone's reaching out for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be kind of like not stubborn, but try to put your foot down and be like, no, I'll tell you why this wouldn't look good, you know. And it's just a certain way to like talk that gets you through some of those things, I think. And
Yeah.
but we try to open those up and try to be as loose as possible because, you know, it's like when we take times rough in ourselves in our studio, not a lot of people get to see those things. So,
Right.
you know, and it could just be our own personal issue. You know what I mean? Like our own critic, we're always going to be. And it's, for me, art over the, 10 years of really doing it, it's helped me out. Like be more abstract. You know, I always thought if you could do an abstract painting, maybe somebody else could do it. But if you painted something real in a way, like an eye, it looks real, then there's like no faking it. But now I'm trying to like alter the two. So it's just kind of chaos, but I'm enjoying it.
Organized chaos.
Yeah. Organized chaos. Yeah.
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 Well, I think that might at times be how kind of figure out a new inspiration or a new style or a new technique. And I've seen y'all go on scale. I think the idea of, I've always been fascinated on how artists can master a drawing that's so small and then for the ability for it to become so big. So I was curious on how y'all how y'all get to that point of making something gigantic.
I feel it comes with experience. To me, it's second nature now to work on a large scale, and people make that comment a lot. It's like, I don't understand how you even visualize this. And I think after doing it for so long and so many murals, it just becomes second nature. But you kind of have to. It's a progression, right? Because it is daunting when you have this massive blank wall in front of you, and there's many ways to get the drawing on there, right? You got to pick the right technique. You can freehand it, which is, I don't think, a great idea when you get to a certain scale. You can doodle grid it, which I feel works great. You can project it, which some people will say you're cheating, but really, if you're doing massive murals, you're not going to say that because you understand the need for that, right?
Yeah.
Because the artwork that this kind of takes place when you're designing it, right? And then it's just a matter of translating it to the wall. And there's some murals that are very loose when they're painting a mural. So there's a lot of artistry that takes place when they're on the wall as well. But yeah, I guess it just comes with experience, that feeling at ease with the big wall.
Yeah, but maybe more specifically to me, I mean, even though I personally was down there and watched both of you doing installations a lot at the original park, I mean, really choosing to work in spaces that, and particularly there, where you didn't have scaffolding. I mean, the choices that you guys were making in order to create something so large, you know, in the space. I mean, yeah, like what was your strategy on that? Like,
well, for me personally, I chose those walls because I got tired of painting murals at floor level that would get covered up, 30 minutes after I painted it. Inevitably, some tourists would come by and scribble hashtag, I don't know, I love cats or something.
Yeah.
So I got tired of putting in that work and spending that money on the paint and then having it be ruined. So I started doing the elevator shaft because those walls were, I believe, 20 feet tall. And people could only reach maybe up to 7 feet. So you get 13 feet of mural space that would be untouched until somebody was brave enough to get up that high. But it was very dangerous to paint there. It was a love-hate relationship, those walls for me, because it just felt unsafe, honestly. I would set up the ladder and the ground was always uneven, and you're coming up with your can, and it's also very challenging. You basically have the whole day to do a piece, but it's a massive wall, so it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I liked using the entirety of the canvas because I've always felt like I don't want to leave any empty space. Like the entire wall was the piece, and I wanted to find a way to make it all work together. But I chose those walls just so that my pieces would stay up longer.
And they did. I mean, that was the one part that I watched. Is like, fuck everybody else. They can't touch it. And they could try, but I always called the bottom layer, especially the first year, because the park evolved throughout time, where we worked with so many great people that beautified it and all of that. But the first year, there's a lot of rebar sticking out, and the whole idea wasn't meant for a million people to be there. It was meant for artists first and for those to appreciate it. But there'd be a lot sticking out, like it's the fatality of Mortal Kombat. After you you win and they fall 100 feet to their perishing death. And I'm watching these awesome people paint there, and I'm sure you used all the tactic you could.
But we're still scared of heights. I'm sure you are.
Yeah. I definitely respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't know how you did it. I mean, how did you extend to reach? I mean, because like Andy said, no scaffolding, pop-up ladders. What were some of the techniques?
Well, I had a very tall ladder that I would use. I would also put a brush on a extendable pole that's used for rolling, but it had this attachment where you can just put a brush and you did that a lot too.
yeah.
But with those little foam rollers.
Right.
That's what I was using, because I can turn them straight and use that round edge as like a microphone and just be able to do dots or do line work, and then I could turn it sideways and get my fill if I needed to.
But you're talking like
Little.
4 inch roller.
Oh yeah, little.
Not the
Oh
big
yeah.
long Home Depot
I would totally
roller,
watch him, but like doing, and I think you had just gotten your back done too. I think we have a few like epic photos of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh
and
my
I'm just sitting there with like a piece of spaghetti that's 30 feet long, just trying to draw with it. Like,
yeah, because it flexes
for
those
sure.
poles.
Yeah.
So you're using a pool noodle
Yeah.
to
Basically.
make a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
But that roller style also gives it a very distinct look, which
It does,
is
yeah.
really neat. I remember this house you did during one of the South Bys, I guess, recreates.
Yeah. Had a little front porch on it, really
Yeah.
simplified shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I brought scale, was able to work from the bottom and reach up. And yeah, like you said, I think that's probably why I never really brought a ladder out there, is because it was just sketch, you know?
Yeah, very sketchy for sure. Every time I painted a piece there, I was like, okay, this is the last one I'm doing. I'm not gonna risk my life again. I missed the park a lot, but if it hadn't closed, I would still be painting that wall, and who knows what could have happened. Honestly, I mean, the park was you all made it as safe as you could, but it had a lot of issues, right?
It grew.
Oh, yeah.
It grew. And I don't think any of us imagined that just how populated it would get.
Well, yeah, but that's also, I guess, a part, when I went and asked permission to start it, and Billy Bishop and Shepard and I and Nate, and, we're like, yeah, this will probably go for like 3 years, maybe. Like, so if from the beginning we had known, so that's what Vic and I would always talk about, like, because the amount of money it costs and insurance to clean it up all the time. I mean, we could have easily done different things if we knew it was going to be something that would be so beneficial to the creative community. Otherwise, it was going to be a temporary art installation.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, it was just fascinating. So even here, looking at the layers, like I remember when we got to like year 4, and I was like, I'm done, Vic. It's like, I'm quitting. And I think I was pregnant with my second baby. And he was like, you're not a quitter. I'm not quitting. So if I'm not quitting, you're not quitting.
Yeah.
And we had so many pep talks like behind the scenes where I was like, this is not worth it. I saw a pregnant lady walking, holding her baby in high heels on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then,
right after the rain, and it's a mudslide to get up to the 2nd or 3rd floor.
yeah. And
So many wacky fucking people go over there.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
but
I want to
then-
hear some of those stories too.
But one of the big inspirational moments for me was coming out and seeing you doing the Queens all along the 80-foot.
Yeah.
And you and a few other artists did this on a few occasions. And I knew the reason why, that it was to show your ability to do scale and to get larger commissions and to get larger jobs. And so that's what I explained to people, that once I really realized that you want to hire a chef and you want to taste their food. You want to hire an architect and see a building they built. You want to hire a giant scale muralist and see something big they've painted.
Yeah. Without being in a commercial building or another setting that you're not comfortable with, you can go there anytime you want type deal. That was so cool.
You can try out ideas. It's kind of like a open mic for comedians or musicians, right? You can just go try something out, see how it works out.
Yeah, that's exactly how I always described it. It was a visual open mic.
Yeah, y'all are awesome for conquering it and just being a part of the city like that. I'm stoked that y'all pushed through over these years and all the people and the chaos and all that.
Oh, well, it's again, a whole
everybody.
army of awesome.
Yeah.
It took every bit to make, well, I think like all things really, when it comes to creative movements, whether it's in writing or music or food, or fashion, you have
That circle.
pioneers,
Yeah.
you have people that did the first crazy things, and from there we all learn, and then we do it together. So
Well, that park, I mean, was essential for the careers of a lot of the muralists and artists that we have in Austin today. I learned how to spray paint there because I studied oil painting, right? But as I started entering the world of murals, I realized spray painting was the tool to use. So that's where I honed my skills, and that's the same story for a lot of artists. And the original park was just essentially a playground or a sandbox where you can go and just experiment and try things out. That's where I started doing murals with incorporating sculptures or installations that were hanging from above. There's nowhere else I could have done that. Where could I try that? Now at the studio, at Something Cool Studios, we have some jam walls, and it's kind of serves a similar purpose, and where we can just try out ideas. It's like a little science lab or art lab.
I love it. Yeah, no, and those are some of my favorite moments too, going out and seeing different sculptural installations, whether it was by you or we had some interesting shit, man. Like I remember showing up and there was like a whole throne. I don't know if
Yeah.
like someone had turned some couch into like a throne.
2x4s in the back of it, just like some like peacock looking chair.
Yeah, like straight up. It was like a
remember that.
Game of Thrones art throne or something.
sure.
Wow.
And there was several couches that just had their own lives for a
Yeah.
bit.
Yarn tied everywhere.
Yeah. The Leslie sculpture, which we kept. Man.
That one, yeah, that one's.
That was pretty legendary. That was the first sculpture that went down. It was like real serious, like metal, and then they cemented it to the ground. And
Yeah.
then,
The sheet metal
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's at the studio right now. I gotta give that back to you guys.
Oh
Actually.
yeah, right.
that's cool.
Yeah, she's made it around.
But the evolution of like even that got dressed and changed and altered and beautified and things. The love, the LOVE thing that I never thought that piece would stay.
Cool.
And whoever I don't remember who's installed it, but it was pretty durable. And then it changed almost
Yeah,
daily.
people were standing.
Were you able to save that one, the love one, or did it
No,
disappear?
it disappeared.
Dang.
Yeah, I think a piece of the E fell off or something, and then it just.
Yeah. Well, then it lived on and kept getting, and thick. But for sure,
Yeah.
we did get some pieces, but man, it was just so crazy.
Yeah.
One of the installations that I did that involved hanging a tesseract sculpture out of PVC pipes.
Yes.
right.
That was a difficult installation. So, the idea was to put in these hooks into the walls that we would run some wire off of, and then hang the sculpture from that. But what I realized is that you can't just drill into concrete because those walls were solid concrete.
Yeah.
So I had to get this gun that has like a CO2 cartridge and it shoots bolts into concrete to get that to attach. And anyways, long story short, we made it work. But to my horror,
Holy
weeks
crap.
later, oh, and I also had to kind of scoot on that wall to the very edge and do the thing and attach. It was not safe, but I was determined to do it.
Yeah.
And to my horror, weeks later, I see a picture of my installation, and like a trapeze artist or something, like a tightrope walking person was just hanging from those wires that I installed.
Oh.
And I freaked the fuck out
Like trusting.
because
Wow.
I mean, we did our best to make it safe for the sculpture, but I was like, oh my god! So I ran over right away and cut those wires because I was like, if someone's crazy enough to do this, it's gonna
You don't
happen
want to be
again.
responsible.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time before that pops off. So that was the last time. I think the one and only time
Yeah.
that I did that wire thing, because I was like, if somebody gets hurt on my sculpture, Hope is gonna kill me.
Well, I just had a mini heart attack right now.
I know. I never posted that picture, and now that the park is closed, we can laugh about it. But it was a very scary situation.
But there are a lot of random people that would, like, I understand creative bravery, and I commend you both for that. But there are a lot of random people that would just not be smart doing dumb shit there.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I remember seeing a parkour artist that he was pretty awesome and talented, but my worrisome ness of wait, let me talk to you and tell you let me tell you the measurement of this or something.
Yeah.
But there was never any major problem. But
Crazy.
you never know what someone's got the balls to do.
I'm surprised that really there wasn't any major accidents. I mean, there was one time I was painting there. Somebody threw a paint can from way up above, and it hit somebody at the bottom level, one of the artists, and sliced up their head. I'm sure little things like that happen. You're probably like, oh no.
I remember you saying that someone threw a can from the top and it landed right next to me on a rock and it just sprayed my whole body blue.
It's just like,
It was
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
I mean,
Wow. No, I mean, there were plenty of stories, and there were many that I knew about. There were tons that I did not know about too. Like, I didn't know about, I guess, the VIP lounge that was under one of the slabs up at the top. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I think I know what spot you're talking about, but what
wouldn't
was
call
that?
It,
What do you
wouldn't call
mean?
it VIP.
What,
unless
what
the
took
T
place?
stands
Is that the
for-
champagne room? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was.
See, I don't even know what y'all are talking about. There's some hidden gems in there.
Yeah, no, this has come up with a few of the artists that
Wow.
there was this hidden little cave
Yeah.
up at the top under some spot that was
Under one of those concrete slabs
like a
or something?
crevice.
Yes.
Like where
You have to-
Sloke's wall is or something?
Yes,
behind
yes.
it. You have to crawl, but
When Sloke and I first, when I went and asked permission from Vec and Deck, and then we came up with this whole system. I'm like I have pictures of these like 4x8s that I paid for multiple times that Nate and I went over together. Like he's like, okay, I want the top to be for kings. It's like this whole system.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had there's a map.
It was a little
in your room.
hierarchy.
Yeah, and there are like
seasons.
lanyards you could get, and you'd contact me and contact Sloak, and then
Yeah.
and that like failed immediately. I was like, this is not
Wait.
this is not a
Graffiti
good
and
idea.
permission
I know.
together.
Well, and I was telling him, I'm like, we should let it talk to us. We should let the project talk to us. Let's just see, what happens. And but yeah.
How many other cities in America have gone through something similar though? Like not much.
Not much for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, over the years, that's why just taking all this information, really collecting it, knowing the number of cities that contacted us saying, hey, we'd like to do something like this. How do we do it? I'm like, well, I don't really know yet. Give me some time and I'll put together the playbook for you. But right now, I'm just grateful to get the opportunity to even try because that's what we don't get in the public art world and in the sculpture world. Artists, you're supposed to submit an idea, then you have some panel of people of who knows where they're from. And then they choose, and then that commission goes, and we hope the public likes it. That's really, unless there's already an agenda for what that sculpture or public art piece is for, there's really no trial and error, right? So that to me was what was going on. I'm like, this is more about a safe place for creativity, a safe place for public art, for trying things. Sure, we learned, okay, we'll have to figure out areas where just anyone can paint, just because we're learning. People are picking up spray cans for the first time. People are bringing their kids there for their birthday parties. People are showing up for quinceañeras and bachelorette parties.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the daytime stuff.
Oh yeah.
We know who was going at night.
Luis, let's talk about soccer.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Jeez, I felt like during the pandy, as we've been.
You're working on that big
Pandy.
project during
Yeah.
that, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I feel like for us in our city, like, I don't know, we grew up with the immigrant mom. Soccer is one of the main sports in the world. And,
The
it is,
sport.
right, sorry.
Football is actually what it's called.
Right, sorry.
But
And now finally we have it here. A lot of this is very recent. And then boom, you're like a big player. And I know they did a great job of putting together a program, but I feel like you've really been a big shine in that program.
Thank you. It's been fantastic working with the team and Los Verdes in particular. So a couple of years ago, this guy named Rigo, who started Los Verdes, a fan club for the team, reached out and pitched the idea to paint a tifo. And I've played soccer all my life, so it's just part of my childhood, and I still play it. I'm in a team called Verity. Shout out to Verity.
nice.
And when he reached out and told me, hey, would you like to paint a mural for the new soccer team? I said, fuck yeah. It was just a perfect opportunity for me. And so we painted the first tifo for Austin FC. And tifo is basically a mural painted on fabric.
Yeah.
And then this fabric gets hoisted up at
Yeah.
the stadium right before kickoff. And it's only up for 3 minutes tops. And this is something that takes months to create. The first one took 300 volunteers. It took me 2 weeks to actually paint, and it's just a big undertaking for something that's so temporal. But I felt like we could make a big statement, make an impact with this tifo, and really put Austin FC kind of on the map. Not just being the new team, but hey, look at the fans that we have. Look at the passion that we already have built, the culture. And now I'm working on the next one for the next home opener, and it's another massive one. It's 100 feet wide, 60 feet tall, and again we're using hundreds of volunteers, and it's all painted on the floor, all hand painted. People thought that first one was printed
Yeah.
because
It's too big.
how could somebody paint that? And no, everything's hand painted, and it's all the materials were donated. I basically donate my time for that. We're trying to create an economy for it so that the artists are more sustained, I guess, because I do have to take off, 2 weeks worth of working on my other projects to work on this. So, but we're creating this new culture and really setting the bar for tifos in the U.S. and I feel worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's impressive. It's not 3 minutes. It's captured, and like, you know, I've been fascinated on what kind of building are you in that's big enough to lay that whole thing out. It's just got to be gigantic warehouses, right?
So it's a big warehouse. It's a space that was donated to Los Verdes. It's up in Parmer, just way up north. And we have to divide the tifo into 3 pieces, essentially, because the space is not even big enough. So I have to paint it in sections, and then it all gets sewn together and attached to this giant netting that the stadium has. And we do a test the night before game day. And it's just this whole crazy undertaking.
Dang.
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
I've been
It
out
is.
there, and you know, you're right. I mean, it's one season so far, and on the map already, like citywide, worldwide. Yeah, so pretty exciting.
It's super impressive, and it makes me super happy to see, you know, more stuff, just more. The more culture that we're building and creating for ourselves, and then for our kids and the future. Because all of it to me also is about like jobs and careers, you know, that these things help make like that culture, that football culture, right? And it's magic. It's like super magical.
Yeah,
So,
it's something I know nothing about. Now that I get to, you know, like I get to research it and what you've been doing, and yeah, I knew nothing about it. Now it's really cool. And
I wouldn't be surprised if they hit you up for a mural
yeah,
at the
that'd
stadium.
be cool.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
because the Austin FC team, or the club, they've been very good about inviting artists to paint there, like Chris Rogers and Fabian Rey, and several other artists have already done murals at the stadium. So they're, and I feel that hope is kind of what has set the tone for the city, that this is a city where murals are an integral part of the cultural fabric.
Come here for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they built the stadium, they were already thinking we got to incorporate art by local artists. So I think y'all helped build that culture.
oh well, I thank you. And again, it's all, you know, all of it continues to be a collaboration, you know, because that stadium now is inspiring and encouraging more. You know, it just goes on and on and on. And yeah, again, just having the opportunity to try to do things, and having, you know, living in a city where people are open-minded, you know, that to me is what I know is why I moved here, and why other people are really, when they come here, they're like, wow, there's something different about here. I feel like really like I get to be myself in some, you know, interesting way. So the more of this that we're doing together, the more that keeps on going.
Yeah. Every year around South by, we would try to do a full takeover of the park where all these artists are all painting the park at the same time, and literally start to finish in one day. Did you guys do, most of the time, were you lined up to do the 2 shafts at the same time? The 2 elevator
I
shafts?
think so. Yeah, I think we did. When you did that house, I think I was doing the other one.
Yeah.
The first recreate I did was by accident. I actually didn't know it was happening, and the story's in the book. These walls can talk. But I showed up very early. I always like to get there like at sunrise, because I wanted to get a good parking spot,
Yep.
set up, and
That's
spent
funny.
the
You
whole
didn't
day
even know it
painting.
was going down. You're just like,
I didn't.
average
Parking.
day here.
All the walls were buffed, and I thought, wow, this is great. And I picked a little wall like at the 2nd or 3rd level, and it's actually my first spray paint piece. It technique wise, it wasn't great, but I spent maybe 4 hours painting it, and then as I'm finishing, Roshi shows up, who's a fellow artist and muralist, and she's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry to tell you this, but that's the wall I'm painting today." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh well, we have this whole recreate event today for Hope, and everybody's been assigned a wall, and this is my wall that you painted on, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to paint over your piece." And I was heartbroken, and I kind of gave her a little bit of an attitude, and also kind of a sob story. I don't know. I just trying to convince her, like, hey, maybe you can just let it slide. Or she's like, I could tell she was like, oh, come on, why me? Why did this happen to me? And I was like, hey, if you have to paint over it, that's fine. I understand. But still, kind of with that tone, you know, like.
Yeah.
Anyways, I came back later that evening after doing South by for the whole day, and I was drunk, and I had left my car there. So I came back and everybody was gone, and I went up there and checked out the wall, and to my surprise, she changed her entire design and essentially drew a character kind of with a roller pole, like as if her character was buffing the wall, and kind of buffing partially of my piece, but left most of it intact.
Wow.
And she just kind of incorporated it, and from that day on, I was a fan of Roshi.
Yeah,
and I
that's
think I
what's
messaged her, and yeah. But that was my first time painting at Recreate, but unofficially.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to Roshi.
Yeah,
She's
it's a cool
awesome.
story.
She's
She's
a
awesome.
beautiful person, beautiful artist. Well, I'm guessing the second time around, because we did it a few times. I mean, you were incorporated into more of it, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of all a blur to me, honestly, which ones I did and which ones I didn't.
Luckily, they're in the book.
Yeah, it's helpful.
I'm not sure which ones were part of Recreate and which ones weren't, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there was one that stood out that lasted a long time, which was the face of the Bateman character of American Psycho, and he's in a scream, but you can see it from so far away because of that scale and the emotion, the eyes and the mouth opening. So you could be
In the
almost
buildings
at,
in
like,
Austin.
Yeah, so say the skate park is down the way and there's a parking complex connected to ACC or something, but you could see that scream, that
Really?
face
Wow.
all the way from over there, and you're like, yep, still up. Nobody touched it because they couldn't reach it. B, it's so massive and awesome.
At one
Yeah.
point, I drew because the bottom had gotten covered up after a few weeks. So I went back and I put a giant cheeseburger where it had been covered up. So it looked like he was just trying to take a huge bite.
Eat the burger. See, the adapting to, okay, well, let's see what we can do.
I did drive around and try to find places where I could see Castle Hill, from buildings, or if I'm like in some building on the 20th floor, I'd try to find like where the balcony is so you can see it from there. Yeah, a lot of people had just a book going every day from their front porch up high
Yeah,
of all these artists coming through. I bet that's a pretty cool experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking back, I still think it's amazing that it was up longer than anyone had thought. I mean, like Andy said, the true idea was to make it. We thought it would only go for a year, 2 years, maybe 3, and most of the public still thinks that, the evolution of it went a whole other way without intent. The intent was for it to be something to look at, not for everyone to touch, but it's just the evolution,
To be
growth.
temporary.
Yeah. To see it, the growth of it, like just to imagine that drone cameras didn't exist when it started, and then by the
yeah.
end of it, we've got all this magnificent footage of
Well,
someone starting from a close up all the way to the whole city.
Yeah.
That's
We were
crazy.
also a place where drone pilots were practicing,
Oh, wow.
like another creative career and technology thing that
Yeah.
would go there and then those companies that were forming them, because they could send their pilots there to test, they then wanted to be a part of the project.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So then we got all these videos and AR and VR stuff. I mean, it all comes from, just this same, yeah.
So the mediums continue to change. I mean, there's been topics of NFTs and all of this next level
I was just thinking, how will tattoos work in the metaverse?
shit. There's, I mean,
Maybe it's a QR code, you scan it, and then you see the tattoo. Can you do that?
you never know.
I don't
man.
know. Yeah, you
no,
never know,
I mean,
yeah.
it's your avatar, and do you want to
I mean-
apply? Oh my goodness!
And it's a weird topic because, like, Jason, I know that your other medium is like you've got all these vintage vehicles or from the bikes to, I know you
Yeah, low riding is
trucks and such.
Yeah.
But just go from vintage all the way to the spectrum of next level capture. I'm so fascinated by all this shit.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I built the park in virtual reality to scale with pieces from the park, so you can walk through it. It's a game called VR Chat, so unfortunately it's not as accessible because it's on Steam. You kind of have to be a gamer, I guess. So I wish they would put it on, I don't know if the metaverse becomes a thing,
Jeez.
but it's there. It's built. It's and you guys can walk through it. I can send you the link.
Yeah, how did you do that to?
yeah, no, I have.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I took Google Map images, and that's where I got all the measurements and the spacing between the walls, and created kind of like a floor plan. And just knowing that the height of the wall that I painted was 20 feet tall, I would compare that to the other walls to kind of determine the height, and then looked at a lot of pictures to figure out the landscaping, like all the weeds and little shrubs everywhere, and yeah, it's cool.
So sick, yeah, and that's why I'm so impressed by both of you. It's like it's not none of y'all are one-trick ponies. You've figured it out and you've continued to learn.
And I thought at
throughout
first
all
maybe you
this.
might be the same way, where it's kind of a disadvantage. You think it's a disadvantage because some of the artists you look up to have kind of either kept their same style or done one thing and it worked out for them or whatever.
I think it's you create a kind of a slower progression for yourself is what I feel like. Like me personally, I feel like my craft evolves a little slower because I have so many things I'd like to work on. But
some of those things come back and you're like, whoa, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known this if I didn't do that one random project and learn that type thing.
I think so. I feel like right now I'm in my late 30s. I'm 37. And I feel like when I get to my 40s, like my 30s was kind of like my training ground,
Yeah.
where I was kind of forming myself as an artist, and all these parts of me as an artist will come together.
Yeah.
And maybe my 40s is where, I'm a little more streamlined, a little more focused.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I don't know if that's actually how it's going to turn out, but I think you're the same way, right? I mean, you fabricate, you tattoo.
And I don't ever really go out and paint in the city anymore, really. You know, it's like if I'm doing that, if I'm like, oh, I want to learn something, I can do it at home now that there is no like taking a risk out there is another thing that now everybody knows me. If I do something that's recognizable, it's easier for someone to like take shots at me or tell the landowner or get me in trouble. So I got to like kind of be careful on certain levels. But yeah, I think it's so cool to be like open-minded about that and learn stuff on your own. It's pretty cool. 'Cause you never know what's going to come and how you could adapt some of those things you've learned to
Yeah,
that.
like I see all your different avenues of creativity, and while they're kind of, at first glance, maybe they seem kind of separate, I can see how they all come together, and like your whole process feels like it's all very much ties into itself, like the culture you're creating for yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm still kind of like waiting, right? Like I'm like, what's going to be the cool thing that I hang on the wall that represents everything? Like the candy paint on the lowriders to the gold engraving to like the rough roller stuff to fine art or welding. So it's like all these different things could make some pretty gnarly pieces later, if hopefully.
I think as an artist, we create our own language, right? So it's, perhaps those are all just parts of your language, right?
Yeah.
And I think about that for myself too. When I'm insecure about being so all over the place, then I think, well, first of all, I'm really enjoying it, the way I'm doing things, and it's leading to opportunities. So I must be doing something right. So yeah.
Damn right. One of the first shows that I went to at your studio was Jason. And Jason, I believe you collaborated or shared that show with Gent.
Yeah.
Gent's an awesome artist as well. But, I know you had done some other gallery work before that at the studio, but it was the first time of seeing all the spaces. And same thing, like you had bikes up, you had print, you had canvas, you had multitudes, as well as you walk through the studio space, and there's all these different resident artists that have their own space, working space, workshops, showcasing galleries. And yeah, it feels like it feels like
more
it all
comforting
coexists
than
well.
a home. It's an old home, so it's like
Yeah.
it's a different
Yeah,
feel.
and I think we're running the studio in the same way where, hey, we're just gonna do it our way.
Yeah.
We're not gonna follow any particular model. It's not just the gallery. It's not just the studio space. It's not just the shop. It's all those things and more, and we'll see where it leads us.
Yeah. It's been pretty badass, man. So
Thank you.
So awesome.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to bring it.
We'll do it after, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, like I said, when we started, we're probably going to have you guys on again, because I don't feel like we've even really touched on all the stories, but it's just so awesome having you here.
Likewise.
And both of you together. So every guest, we got to, ask you what you'd like to have on a brick at the park. I think both of you might even already, but it's more, I think what we've discovered is everyone's had something super different to say, whether it's inspirational or guidance or something factual that we just didn't really want to know.
What's your favorite curse word? No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, love to hear from both of you what you would like on a brick at the park.
You want us to tell you right now?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang, I've written mine down on my easel at home. I'm trying to remember what I wrote down.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Yeah, but no. I can remember it. I think. Hold on.
Well, and I think we've had some guests where a lot of artists kind of have a saying that's their saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had some people share things that are more like just
Random.
funny shit
Yeah.
quotes that. Yeah, and then sometimes it's more about like some sort of advice that someone just gave you.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different feels. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, though.
Well, okay, I have two ideas that come to mind. One is the phrase "paint it up." So when I was in art school, there was a video that one of our teachers showed us, and there's just some dude just yelling, "Paint it up! Paint it up! Just grab a brush and paint it up!" Just doing that for 5 minutes straight. So that just stuck in my mind, and I think those are great words to live by as an artist because really, at the end of the day, just paint it up. Nothing else matters. If you're getting hate from people or whatever, just paint it up. And then the other idea is to put my sister's name, Lisa, Liza, and when she passed in 2015, it really lit a fire in my heart to just go for it and also felt like time is of the essence. Like we don't know how long we're here till, right? So I don't know if I look calm to people or what, but inside I'm very frantic and I feel like I have time is running out. I gotta get stuff done. I'm always like in a sprint, and it's also I think it comes from losing her, but also just her passing is what really has inspired me to go for it. So I'm between those two.
I love it.
Love 'em
maybe
both.
it's Lisa and paint it up underneath. I don't know. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful and awesome mantra. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's deep, man.
I don't
love
know what
it.
I would have for mine. I don't. Another brick in the wall. No.
I did it all for the nookie.
Yeah, did it all for the nookie.
Little basket.
Did it all for the noogie. No, I think my grandma's been a big inspiration for me. As far as someone going through a bunch of things in life, some stuff that I don't know about, but what my mom has shared me, what she has shared me, incredible stuff to like, to lifestyle, to everything. And she was a full-time clown forever, and so she like did street performances and stuff like that. And so
Wow.
going to her house every summer and during the holidays, it would just be like, so much motivation and inspiration to just keep your hands busy and do stuff, because she was doing it and didn't have crazy money, just made sure she was happy in her gut. And it made me happy when I was young. So I kind of took that on, and she still carries like super heavy heart to this day and stuff. So, and she's been writing Twinkle on things, ever since I was little. So it's like kind of, and she would dress as costume and go to different restaurants in costume, and I would have to be with her, and I would notice everyone just staring, and it wouldn't be anything to me or her. Like it would just, so like, that's why I think another thing is getting covered in tattoos is like, it's like kind of a part of it, I don't mind
You
that.
can write Twinkle on a brick.
That's what I've been, I was gonna write don't get down from there, and then Twinkle.
Don't
Yeah.
get down.
Yeah, don't get down from there, because I would ride my tall bike around when I moved here, and everyone would be like, "Get down from there, man! How are you gonna get down?" And I just thought of like, I don't want to get down. Like I love being up, It's like, and so I think that would be kind of cool.
That's a good one in multiple levels too.
All right.
Because
I
like
know.
half the time I've seen you guys, you're up pretty high putting some shit together. So
Yeah.
that's another mantra too.
keep our minds and everything up. Stay
I
up.
love that, man.
Right, yeah. Cool.
Amazing.
It's not what I read on my easel, but I think that would be kind of cool.
That's why you can get more. You got more than one brick, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us so much. This has been inspiring, funny, awesome, all the feels. And we can't wait to do more and see more of what y'all are up to.
Cool.
But this will wrap this particular episode of These Walls Can Talk up. We're gonna roll in a badass fucking bike by Jason. in one sec. But y'all be safe out there and keep an eye out on all the things that these awesome artists are doing in this town. So we'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, love one another.
Hell yeah.
Paint it up.
Paint it up.
You have been listening to These Walls Can Talk, a Hope Outdoor Gallery podcast, powered by Dropbox, Docsend, and Ibble.